For the last 3 decades, Thrice have made a name for themselves as one of the most consistent names in the melodic hardcore genre, delivering much-loved records like 2003's The Artist in the Ambulance, 2005's Vheissu, and 2009's Beggars. Their latest record, Horizons West, released this month, is a companion piece to 2021's Horizons East, and continues in the same vein as where that record left off. Juggernaut riffs, bold experimentation, and lofty high-concept lyrical inspirations abound. I sat down with lead singer and songwriter Dustin Kensrue to talk about the latest record, how writers like C.S. Lewis and Aldous Huxley continue to inspire his lyrics, and why algorithms were on his mind whilst writing Horizons West. I hope you enjoyed the chat. Great, perfect. Well, we're here to talk about your new record, which is coming out in just a few weeks' time, Dustin, which is Horizons West. Now, obviously, a few years ago in 2021, you put out a record called Horizons East. I wondered if you just talk a little bit to kick us off about the relationship between those two records and what ties them together conceptually.
Yeah, so we were working on, at that time, one record. And started accumulating a lot of ideas that we were really excited about, and had this harebrained idea to make it into 2 records and split it from just being Horizons to Horizons East and West. And we were going to put them out, 6 months apart, maybe 9 months apart. And we got to the end of recording the first half, and we just were spent, and I was like, we don't have to do this right now. Like, it's a good idea, but maybe we wait. And so there are pieces of what we were building back when we first split the record, but a lot of it is new. And the fun thing about that was, especially thematically, it gave me time to really kind of sit with the concepts and the metaphors that I was thinking through in regards to Horizons West, and from the ground up of building this record, that was in mind. So I think it's the most thematically dense record since we did the Alchemy Index, and yeah, it was a lot of fun to make. So there's also like some kind of Easter eggs between different things tying in. The last 2 songs are very much kind of companion pieces. There's little audio tie-ins between the beginnings of the records, and yeah.
It's really interesting. I really want to get into some of those Easter eggs, Dustin, because I'm sure fans of the band will be able to spot different ones and pick up on different ones as they listen to the songs. I just want to talk about that theme that you talk about, and how this is one of the most, kind of complete thematic statements that you guys have put out as a band. One of the things that I was thinking of when I listened to the record is how often you come back to the setting sun as imagery in the record. I think in the opening track, Blackout, you talk about a sun being blacked out. And then I think later on the record, I think the track is Twisted Shadows. You talk about a sun setting down on an unnamed antagonist. What was it about that imagery that struck you so much? And what was it that you thought about that imagery was a good vehicle to convey ideas on this record?
Yeah. So when we broke this to kind of focus on the West, to me, the main metaphor that I think of when I think of the West is the setting sun, and so I let that be kind of the guiding image for the record, but the image is approached from a bunch of different angles, so it's probably featured on 60-70% of the record, but in a song like Crooked Shadows, this is an ending that is longed for, that is necessary, that's good. There's songs like The Dark Glow that use it as a kind of metaphor for mortality and death, and the various ways that we can either fight against that or come to peace with it. So there's a variety of ways the image is used, but it's very prominent throughout the record.
Then the album has been trailed by the lead single, Nash, Dustin, which you guys put out a few months ago now, I think. That is a really heavy song. It's one of the heaviest that I think you guys have put out in quite some time. And I've heard you speak in previous interviews that you're aware that people, perhaps some fans of the band who perhaps love the Artist in the Ambulance stuff or the Vheissu stuff, they kind of harken back and they want you to put out heavier stuff. When you put this out as a lead single, was there any part of you guys as a band almost trying to refute those kind of ideas that you're not as heavy as you used to be? What was the thinking behind having that as your lead single for the record?
I wouldn't say refute, because I mean, it's not a matter of like, I mean, if we wanted to be super heavy all the time, we could definitely do that. But we're always kind of just trying to do what's fun for us at the moment. And this was what was fun on this record. And I think from the beginning of us working on this track, we knew that it was something different and fresh feeling, but then it was entertaining to work in some things like, you know, the chorus is very heavy, both the riff and the vocal, but then also bringing in the double bass at the end, which, you know, I brought up as almost a joke of like, we could do this, and we haven't done it in so long that we're like, I don't know, and just tried it out, and we're like, yeah, that's fun, that's good. So yeah, I mean, everything we try to do is trying to be always decoupled from what anyone else might expect from us, and just let the spirit of, you know, discovery and curiosity guide whatever we end up doing. So as far as putting it out as the first single, it was just I think an exciting track and unexpected, and yeah.
That's cool. I want to talk about the lyrics of the track as well, Dustin, if that's okay. When I've been listening to the song, the lines that really stand out for me that I keep returning to and that play on my mind are when you say, I'm the mother tongue and the manic fear when you hit send. Now, in the promotional materials for the record, I know that you've spoken about how you're interested in how algorithms and things like echo chambers are shaping our world. What were you trying to convey lyrically with this song? Would you mind dissecting the kind of lyrics a little bit on Nash?
Yeah, it's an interesting one in the sense that it's just dark. It doesn't lead out of the tunnel at all. A while ago, I learned that I didn't need to try to find a way out on every song, that there's a broader context to the work that I'm doing. And this one, I'm always looking to write about something that is telling the same story that the music's already telling. And this song just had a sinister kind of feel to it. And I wrote it pretty quickly. I've been trying to get ideas out quicker because I'm very slow writing usually, because I'm overly critical, and so it's hard to generate. I'm much better at critiquing, and so sometimes I've been trying to like write quickly and not worry about it too much and be like, I can fix it later. But I've been getting better at getting stuff out and being able to, you know, for the demo to the other guys, be like, all right, I have some actual words I'm singing. It might not be the end, but so this came together very quickly, and it's trying to get at the feeling that I'm sure we're all familiar with, where it just feels like everything's going to hell and nothing you do is right. And, you know, that's not all of life, but that is a real feeling that most of us experience from time to time. And it was just trying to capture that in a sense. I think sometimes there's something cathartic about being able to name things or express them in ways and not let them kind of just lurk in the subconscious.
It's really interesting because I often tend to think of Thrice as a very political band. You know, a lot of your lyrics seem at least to me as a listener very politically inspired and kind of talking about what's happening in the world at large. And it kind of, in my view, gets overlooked sometimes when people talk about Thrice. But it feels like a song like Nash. You know, you've been more direct, I felt, than you have been politically in the past. Was there something about the political climate? You know, you've just talked about how kind of bad things are at the minute, how kind of negative things are in the world at the minute. Was there a desire to more than perhaps in the past be more direct in your lyrics politically? Can you talk a little bit about that, or whether that's a misnomer in your view?
It's interesting. I mean, it's always interesting to talk about, you know, art in general, but lyrics specifically, I think, are so much of what you get out of it is what you bring to it and the context that you hear it in. It's impossible for the writer to really know how much people are going to pick up that they're actually putting in purposefully, and how much some totally new context is bringing something out. So I wouldn't think of Nash as an overtly political song myself, though I can absolutely understand how it channels a lot of things out there. And I feel like most days recently, there's just a low grade, shitty feeling lurking in the back of my daily experience from a lot of things going on. And I feel like the song captures that well. I feel like the most, at least in my mind, politically purposeful song is Crooked Shadows on the record. But yeah, it's a difficult thing, and it's something I think about every day in as far as how do you speak about what's going on around you, especially as an artist, and how much do I say outright, and how much do I hint at and do what C.S. Lewis used to call sneaking past the watchful dragons. That in pieces of fiction, you can sometimes bypass the automatic cutoffs that people have to say, no, that's not what I think. I'm not going to engage that thought. And you're able to maybe allow people to engage in thinking that they normally wouldn't. So it's very much something that I struggle with these days, of how much do I lean each way, because I feel like I can do more good sometimes by letting the music do things. But it feels very passive sometimes in the midst of, you know, the everyday crazy news cycle. So yeah.
Has there ever been a desire, individually or within the wider band, to be more political?
Just never oriented ourselves as a political band. I wouldn't, in the sense that I also am fairly dissatisfied with the larger political infrastructure that exists, at least in the States. And I would view more of what I'm talking about as socially charged, or I don't know a better word for it, but I'm trying to talk about people and systems and the way that those things affect each other, and regardless of specific political parties per se. Yeah. I don't know. I'm also that I feel like that's like a lot of this is probably sounding to someone who hasn't known the band like uh, the entire thing is trying to be um, a giant teaching vessel or something, but it's much more just me wrestling with the world around me and the things that are going on inside of me, and what comes out comes out.
What about the song "Crooked Shadows" then, Dustin? Could you talk a little bit about that track?
Yeah, I think that song is and that one we're using the metaphor as this idea of the sun going down on something, a day of ending, and it's a little bit born out of this idea of the extinction burst. Have you heard that term? So it's a term in psychology. I could be getting some of this wrong. We'll see. That talks about at the end of when you're working with someone and you're cutting off certain modes of being for them, that there is kind of this energy that comes out to. I'm just talking about this very poorly. There's an energy that comes that is trying to fight against this ending, and it's very intense. And so people have started to apply that to some of what we're seeing with certain political movements and kind of cultural movements that are happening right now. That there's this escalation of a hypermasculinity and toxic. A variety of toxic features in the landscape, and this is being used as a way to understand maybe some of that. That because things have been moving in a way to make things better for more different kinds of people, some people have felt encroached upon by that, even though it's not taking something from them. But there's a feeling of loss, and so there is this expansion of energy. But that it's kind of a death rattle. And I don't know if that's true. I hope that it's true. But yeah, the song's kind of playing with that idea.
I see what you're saying. It's very interesting because I think this part of the conversation, you're talking about, kind of psychological concepts and C.S. Lewis. And I've always seen Thrice as a very cerebral band. There's the kind of heavy riffing and, like the double bass drumming, which people get into. But I think people stick around, Dustin, for a lot of your philosophical songwriting. You reference, it's not every band and contemporary of yours who will reference someone like Seneca in a song, or I know you've put out reading lists in the past that you have inspired you for your Palms record, for example. As we kind of talk about this, was there anything that you were reading in particular, or even inspirations outside of music that were formative to this record?
Yeah, I think a couple things. One would be I was reading the book. And these are, I mean, there's a lot of different things, but these are the ones that I remember that were kind of more recent. But a book called Island by Aldous Huxley, which is the last book he wrote. He had, I think, throat cancer while he was writing it. And so he's dealing with his own thoughts of mortality in it, but also looking at kind of a critical utopian book, as well as another one I was reading by my brain shuts off when I try to think of names of people.
It's okay.
Ursula K. Le Guin, who's one of my very favorites. She wrote a really interesting book called Always Coming Home, and it's almost like ethnologist field guide of a future society on Earth after there's been a collapse in a certain area, and it's really, really unique, very lovely. But there's concepts from that. There's this culture that they're studying there has songs for the dying, and then one of them talks about going west to the sunrise as a metaphor for dying, which I like because of the idea of every death is also life, it's rebirth. As Alan Watts talks about, life, death, one thing. So that was, I think, a keystone a little bit in thinking through just that idea in general as a record that is looking at mortality in a variety of ways and endings. Underneath that, I'm definitely looking at back towards the beginnings as well.
That's great. Well, looking back, I mean, you just said that in some of the songs you've got lyrical Easter eggs. You've talked about the last track on the previous record, Unitive East, and how the last track on this record, Unitive West, is a callback to that, at least in the title. In the song Nash, you also reference a subtle dagger, obviously a callback to one of your earlier tracks. What other Easter eggs are there on the record, sonically or lyrically?
Yeah. So let's talk about the unitive tracks for a second. Just those ones, if you break them down, they're very much structurally almost the same song. So it's built on this conceptual idea I had of merging multiple time signatures into one as a kind of a metaphor for the way that everything is connected. And so it starts with 1 and adds 2 and then 3 and all the way up to 11 on Unitive East and 12 on this one. And as all of these different rhythms lay over each other, they create these micro rhythms in unpredictable ways. And so you get to experience them kind of building in and then sucking back out. And the big difference there is we did Unitive East just on a piano, and it's in a major key, so it has a very different mood. And this one is in a minor key. It's very dark, and we recorded it with actually out in this a playground that my kids have played at that has a bunch of these tines and bells that are all in the same key, so that kids all over the park can be banging on them, and it actually sounds really lovely. So I mapped out which ones made which notes and made the song beforehand, and we went and recorded it there at night. So those ones are fun, and they each reflect a little bit of the themes of the record at large. And then some other little things. We took the sound from the very end of Horizons East, and that's the sound you hear kind of swelling in at the very beginning of this record, as well as the beginning sound, that loop in the beginning of Color of the Sky, the first song on Horizons East, is kind of tweaked and placed in the very beginning of this record as well. So yeah, just some fun little stuff like that. But yeah.
Interesting. Talking about, Unitive East and Unitive West, it's not I guess a conventional kind of common thing to like you say, go down to these kind of playground instruments and record them for an album. It's fairly experimental, and you also have a track, Dusk, in the middle of the album, which is pretty much an ambient kind of short track. Where does that impulse toward experimentation and exploring new sounds as a band come from? What draws you to that experimentation when it comes to songwriting?
I mean, I think there really is just the core of what we do is a shared love of creation. That's what keeps the band going. As much as there are cool things about being in a band. There's a lot of grind, and I don't think that we would still be doing it if we didn't love creating music so much. And so that just bleeds into everything. Like, once and certain ideas, I think once they get a hold of you, they're hard to let go of, at least for me. Like, but once I had this idea of, I guess that only if they take on a certain life, but like, it's like when I had the idea for the Alchemy Index, it was like, this could be cool. And then kind of brought it to the guys, and everyone was like, yeah, that's interesting. And we were going to do it as a side project. And as it built steam, we realized, no, this is the thing. This is the next record. So little things like that, where I had this idea for building these time signatures on top of each other, and brought it to the guys, and it started to gather life. And then I was like, okay, I already have the next one in line. And so there's something about watching that spark, and if you can catch it and present it right, it catches something else. And Dusk was built out of an idea that Riley had, messing with it's actually a really, I probably can't say for copyright purposes, but it's unintelligibly distorted from an old song.
I see.
And there's no way you could ever tie it to it, but I just don't want to open that can of worms. But it was kind of thematically tied into things, so I took that, I messed with it even more, and it became something really haunting and beautiful. I think that's another good example of just, there was a spark for Riley, and then I heard it and it sparked something for me, and I took it and moved it on. And so I don't know. I think in one sense we're a little bit spoiled to maintain that mindset that we can just do what we want. But on the other hand, we've worked really hard to keep that, and to, I think, keep the trust with the people that listen to our music, that we are always going to be pursuing what is interesting and interesting to us, not what we think would be interesting to someone else. And that integrity, in a sense, I think, is something that has built trust over time and allows us to continue that cycle.
Have you or any of the rest of the band brought anything to the table, either on this record or on previous records, that you thought was just too experimental for Thrice?
I mean, I'd say nothing is ever like out of hand. I mean, the idea for the unit of songs, like, on paper, sounds really weird. Like, it doesn't sound like it would work at all. It sounds like it would be just a mess. Which is why I had to kind of build like a demo out and be like, does this actually work, or is this just a stupid idea? I don't think. Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty out there idea to think that it's going to be a song. I almost, like the Alchemy, like, I wasn't sure it could be a song. I knew it could be some kind of soundscape, but they end up functioning, as songs. And I don't know. There's a lot that you can do with sound, and we're all into a bunch of different kinds of music, so I don't think anything ever sounds too strange to at least entertain.
That's cool. I mean, obviously, since you put out the last record as well of new material, you've also revisited The Artist in the Ambulance for the 20th anniversary of that record, and re-releasing that with new collaborators and new sounds. Did revisiting that record and playing the whole record live again change the way you approach the songwriting, recording, and sounds for this record at all?
Yeah, I think it did. And I think it will continue into the future in a variety of ways. And maybe the best way to put that is, um, yeah, playing. Well, we did both Illusion of Safety anniversary, so we're playing that record, and Artist in the Ambulance re-recording, playing that record. And so there's a reconnecting with a certain kind of energy that we haven't really played with in a long time, other than uh, playing some of those songs live over time. And while it was the natural movement of our band to move away and into different kinds of energy when we did and throughout our career, um, there's something that is authentically fun about reapproaching it now, and kind of a full circle of, we can explore that again in a way that's not feeling like um, redundant or not challenging or whatever we felt at the time, where we're like, well, we did that, let's do something else. There's something fun about re-encountering it on our own time and in our own way. That's cool. So yeah, I don't know exactly how that's gonna work out over time, especially with, I have an idea of what we'll be up to next, and I don't know how much it will influence that. But I do think, in general, it kind of reintroduced certain modalities that could become things that we play with again.
Okay, that's great. Just to tie up our discussion about the new record, Dustin, I wondered if I could ask you about the artwork for the record. It seems to go, it's obviously a kind of companion album to Horizons East, and both of the covers look quite similar to one another. I would say that Horizons West is almost a deconstruction of the artwork of Horizons East. How do you guys as a band tend to approach artwork? I mean, looking at all of your album covers, they tend to be quite abstract, and from my point of view, tend to be more symbolic rather than literal. What's your approach as a band to artwork, and what part that has to play in the story off the record?
Yeah, I think our general outlook of art for a record is, it's one of the major ways that we find collaboration with other artists, in the sense of, in this case, visual artists. So we're working with people that we like the work that they've done, and we usually have some, ideas of what we might be thinking about the record, or the themes that are going on and how that could translate. And sometimes those come through more than others. Sometimes the artist has an idea that they bring back, and it's just like, that's amazing, and that's not anything we could have ever come up with on our own. And so for this one, Jordan Butcher, we worked with him in the past as well for Major Minor, and on Horizons East as well. So we initially, I think, if we would have put the records out closer together, I think they would have been just almost the same cover, but with color differentiations. But it being a couple years between, we wanted a fresh approach, and he came back with this, and it's, I think, probably all of our favorite cover art that we've ever had. I really, really love it. And I like that it feels very much like a companion to the East cover, but in a very, very different style at the same time. So yeah, it's I think it's always been something that's a fun way to have another artist take a stab at integrating a different medium with something that we're already making. And yeah, I'm really happy with the new one.
That's great. Well, look, it's a fantastic record. I've heard it and I've been spinning it for the last few days. Dustin, so I wish you every strength with the new record. Just before I let you go, you just announced new touring dates for the start of next year in the UK and the EU. Are there any particular cities in Europe and the UK that you love returning to? Obviously, it's a pretty expansive tour and you guys have played all over, but is there anywhere you particularly relish to return back to?
I mean, we have a ton of fun every time we head overseas. I think this time we're really excited to get back up into Scandinavia because it's been a really long time since we've been up in Norway or Copenhagen. We're hitting. It's a beautiful city. So that's been a long time. We've been trying to get back up there.
And then just the last question, Dustin, obviously you guys have been playing as a band now for, I think just shy of 3 decades. What is it that brings you guys back together, playing new music as the kind of consistent lineup you've been ever since you guys started? What is it, the shared chemistry you have between you that brings you closer together and wants you to keep doing this, putting out a new record every few years? What is it about the band?
I mean, I feel like it's less. The mundane answer is, I think all of us are fairly mellow personalities, and so there's not just a ton of conflict that you would have from bigger personalities clashing or annoying each other. I mean, we've had our share of having to learn how to be a family together, but it really is more of that kind of sense of a family where, you can get annoyed with your family, but you're not going anywhere. And you genuinely enjoy each other and love each other. And then we have this shared, I think, shared language of creation at this point, a shared understanding of kind of the palette that we collectively share. And while I think it's always interesting working with people that you haven't worked with creatively, there's something that you can't replicate in that kind of knowledge, like shared knowledge and understanding that grows over time. I think, language is probably the best metaphor for that. There's just a way that how each other function and will understand references you're making. And there's a trust that's built to know that you're going to create something great together.
That's great. And are there any particular songs on the new record that you're looking forward to performing live in particular?
Yeah, I really like Albatross. I think that's been a really satisfying one because it's one that I felt like I could see where it was going to land, and I wasn't sure. Sometimes you're like, until it all comes together, you're not sure that it's going to make sense. And that one, I think once I sang it, it just kind of all clicked into place, and to where I wasn't even sure the rest of the band was like, it's like, am I pushing this one forward? Is everyone else on this? And then everyone is loving it. Like it was, I think consistently with us, everyone was like, well, that turned out way cooler than I even thought it was going to be. And then the response to it's been really great. And it's got a fun groove. It's got kind of this weird left turn in the center that's really fun. And so I'm excited to play that one.
That's great. Well, the new record is Horizons West, and it's out on October 3rd. And it's a brilliant record. And thanks again, Dustin, for taking the time to speak to me today.
Awesome. Cheers. Thanks so much.